history in the ProX 70200 stores and provides valuable information whenever a fault condition occurs. The information stored in the fault history is quite useful. This feature has been designed to retain and report the data gained when testing the various conditions of the oil burner. The ProX 70200 Extreme Diagnostics will test the major components in real time and report the condition on the display, as well as recording the data into the fault history. When viewing this information, it is possible to determine the failure even if the failure only occurs occasionally. This useful feature can prevent repeat service visits. Often, our most useful fault history feature is Last Fault Alert. The ProX 70200 will always flash the fault condition on the display when it occurs. It will remain flashing on the display until the control is reset from lockout. Once the lockout is reset, the display will toggle between last fault message and the current condition. This feature is designed to allow the service technician to easily see the last condition in the event that the homeowner resets the control prior to his or her arrival. The last fault message will continue to display for 5 days after the fault occurs. The on-screen display will alternate between the fault message and instructions to clear the message. The last fault message must be cleared before accessing the fault history or setup menus. Pressing and holding the left arrow button for 3 seconds will clear the message. To view the fault history, press the right and down arrow keys together for 2 seconds. The screen you now see indicates the total number of faults recorded. Instructions to move on to fault history by pressing the right arrow button, as well as instructions on how you can exit the fault history mode by pressing and holding the left arrow button. You can exit this mode at any time by following these instructions. If no button is pressed for 60 seconds, the screen will return to its previous mode. Pressing the right arrow will bring you to the most recent fault, Fault 1. To view details of fault number 1, press the down arrow key. If you needed to move to a different fault, you simply press the right arrow key until you reach the fault cycle you wish to view. The fault history data is stored in a table that retains information for the last 32 fault cycles. The most recent fault is listed first as fault number 1. If the data exceeds 32 cycles, the oldest cycle is erased to make room for new data. Let's press the down arrow to view information on fault number 1. It is important to understand that the fault history data is stored in a table format, much like what is simulated here. As we scroll through the information, you will use the arrow keys to navigate the information as if you were viewing the table. You can scroll up, down, left, and right. For this demonstration, our data may be different than what is represented in the table. Let's proceed. The first screen for fault 1 will display any message resulting from that fault. Here we see fault 1 message, no flame, check valve. This message will indicate the known fault. Any component failure detected will be reported in this message line. If the fault occurred due to some other condition, that message will appear here instead. Possible common messages can include no flame. A no flame message indicates that no flame was detected during trial for ignition. No flame check motor. This indicates the motor did not pass the component test. Further testing may be required or a replacement is needed. No flame check igniter. This indicates the igniter did not pass the component test. Once again, further testing may be required or a replacement igniter is needed. No flame check valve. The oil valve solenoid did not pass the component test. Further testing is required or a replacement. Flame at pre-purge. This message indicates a flame was detected during valve delay on cycle when no flame should be present. This can be caused by a defective solenoid valve, incorrect wiring, or programming. Vent switch open. If the vent input feature has been set to exhaust, check for blockage in either the flue or chimney. If using the vent input feature for intake, check that the BV terminals are connected to a Carlin combustion air proving system and there is no blockage of air intake. Additionally, if any part of the 70200 fails a self-test, an additional message will appear on the display addressing the failure. To access additional fault details, press the down arrow key to move to the next information screen. Cycles ago provides a value of how many cycles ago the fault occurred. Pressing the down arrow again, we see the result of the fault. Continue to press the down arrow to view additional data as follows. CAD ohms is the ohm value of the CAD cell reading at the time of the lockout. The lower the value, the better the Pro-X is seeing the flame. Line volts is the average voltage in the fault cycle. Motor amps displays the test results when the Pro-X checks the motor. This is a current sensing value and will indicate OK when the motor tests fine. Or it may show low, indicating a poor reading. The current sensing feature of the Pro-X is unique. It provides a valuable tool for detecting intermittent failures and dead spots in the motor. Igniter amps. Same as with the motor, the Pro-X 70200 is testing the igniter and reporting a fault when detected. Valve amps. Same as with motor and igniter. Once again, the current sensing will diagnose and report fault readings to assist in locating troublesome and intermittent lockout conditions. Recycle, yes or no. This data detail will report if the burner recycle occurred or not. The Pro-X 70200 will allow a recycle and attempt to restart the burner only when the flame loss occurs in the run cycle and if the recycle feature is active. Recycle is useful and can prevent nuisance lockouts from temporary conditions. It is important to understand that the recycle cannot occur during a trial for ignition. Loss of flame or no flame during trial for ignition will always result in a lockout. Burn time counts the time that a flame should be present. It does not include pre and post purge. If no flame is detected in TFI, the burn time will be 1 second longer than TFI because that is when the Pro-X will lock out. Flame delay. This is a timing to indicate how long it takes to sense flame after the TFI begins. Any delay in lighting the flame is indicative of a faulty operation and further testing is required. This feature is very useful in detecting problems with improper ignition or flame adjustment on startup. Please review the installation and operation manuals for additional details.